I've got action. What's up guys, Alex Duval here. In this video, we're playing 2-5 cash at Caesar's Palace. It's the first time playing at Caesar's here on the vlog. They have a max buy-in of $500, so it's a bit smaller than the typical 2-5 we're used to. We have some great hands. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps the YouTube algorithm, helps us grow our channel. Let's get to 10K, baby. Let's go. One of the first hands in the night comes from 1-3 as we are waiting for our seat at 2-5. We pick up pocket aces in early position and raise to $15. The small blind and the big blind both make the call. I've got action. The flop comes 9-7-4 rainbow. There's not really much to worry about here besides a set, so we are pretty happy. We are especially happy when the small blind checks and the big blind just decides to go all in for about $250. We are not going anywhere and the small blind folds. Let's see how this plays out. I call.
Call?
Yes.
Fucking tournament player.
Do you have a set? I hope you don't have a set. The turn is the jack of hearts and the river is the queen of hearts.
Oh, I just have a 9.
Our opponent went crazy with top pair and it cost him. Not to mention the needles.
See? Why? Bad, good. I told you to walk away, you didn't listen.
In the next hand, we are finally at 2-5 blind levels and we raise king queen off in early position to $15. A maniac loose player 3-bets us on our left to $40. The cutoff and the button both make the call. We can't really expect to be ahead here, but getting such an amazing price, we go ahead and make the call. The flop comes ace, king, 3, rainbow. It checks around to the cutoff who bets $60 or about half pot. The button makes the call, we make the call, and the person to our direct left makes the call. The pot has now ballooned to almost $400, and the turn comes the 7 of spades. This now brings a flush draw on board. It checks around to the cutoff once again who bets $55. The button calls once again, and because this bet is just so tiny, I think we also have to call. Obviously the best card we would like to see on the river is a king, but I've seen weirder things where we call small bets like this and end up having the best hand at the end. The under the gun one player folds, and the river comes the 5 of hearts. This time it checks through and we go to showdown. The cutoff ends up having ace 8 of hearts and the button ends up having ace jack off. This makes a lot of sense as the cutoff was betting so small. Seemed like he didn't really know what to do with his particular hand as he had a weak ace. In the next hand, this is not deja vu. We have king queen off under the gun again. We raise to $15 and the hijack and the cutoff both make the call. We flop a king once again, but this time top pair as the flop comes king 6-5 rainbow. We decide to bet $30 and the hijack makes a call and the cutoff folds. The turn is the ace of hearts. I don't imagine we're going to get called by worse here if we bet, so we go ahead and just check. Our opponent bets $65. While they could have turned an ace with a hand like ace 5 suited or ace 6 suited, it's not too likely. We can definitely still be good here at this point, so we go ahead and make the call. The river is a 6 of spades. We check and our opponent decides to check back. We show and are good. I guess he was just clicking buttons and decided to not go for the river. In the next hand, we have queen 4 of clubs on the button and we decide to raise to $20. This is definitely bottom of range. I probably would fold queen 3, queen deuce of clubs for sure. We get punished for opening wide as the small blind decides to 3-bet to $50. Now, because they made this sizing so small, we decide to call. The flop comes queen 5-4, 2 hearts. We flop 2 pair in a 3-bet pot and are quite happy. There's about $100 in the pot and the small blind bets $55. If we were deeper here, I would definitely consider raising, but being only about $500 effective to start the hand, I think we can just get it in on the turn or river as long as the cards are safe. We just make the call and the turn comes the king of hearts. This is not one of those safe cards. It becomes especially dicey when our opponent decides to continue and bets $75. This is not very large, it's about a 3rd pot size. Our opponent can definitely still have hearts here, so I don't think we get to raise. We just make the call. The river comes the 10 of diamonds. We faded the 4 hearts, and when our opponent checks, we can now safely bet for value. There's about $360 in the pot, and we decided on a size of $100. I honestly actually regret this size. Our opponent had about $300 left, so it was about a pot size bet. This is really the only size we should be using here. Are we really going to fold if our opponent jams after we bet $100? No, the price is just too good. And I think if he has something like ace king or top pair or overpair, then we are going to want to just jam for value. With this said, our opponent does end up making the call and we turn our hand over and are good. Maybe we missed some value there as our opponent would have called a jam, but maybe we didn't as he would have folded to a jam. We will never know, and on to the next one. There's a button straddle for $10 and we raised to $30 on the hijack with jack 10 off. This is definitely on the looser side, but we decided to gamble and the straddle calls and the small blind also calls. The flop comes queen jack 10. The small blind checks to us, and with two pair here, we're going to go ahead and size up as we want to target any hands with a king, any hands with an ace, any hands with a queen. All of these types of hands are going to call a large bet. So we bet $60. The button folds and the small blind makes a call. The turn is one of the worst, the queen of hearts. Our two pair now loses to trips as well as a better jack. The small blind checks and we check back. The river comes the 8 of spades. The small blind checks once again, and I think it's just too thin to go for value here, so we check back. Our opponent shows ace queen of spades. We are pretty happy with this outcome as this pot could have been a lot bigger than it was. In the next hand, we have king queen of clubs and we raise an early position to $15. Just the button makes a call. The flop comes jack 10 6 with an open-ended straight draw and 2 overs as well as backdoor clubs. We are loving this flop and we are going to continue and bet $20. The button makes a call. The turn is the 8 of clubs. Another great card to continue barreling. There's about $80 in the pot and we bet $60. Our opponent once again makes the call. The river comes the jack of spades. This is one of the worst cards and one of the ones we were not looking to see. This is just not a card we get to bluff. We shut down and check and our opponent checks back and shows ace 10 of hearts. I think they played it fine. I think we played it fine. If we would have gone for a bluff there, I really don't think they would have folded as they unblock clubs as well as it being way less likely for us to have a jack. In spots like this, you must know when to shut down. In this hand, the cutoff raises to $15 and we call on the button with pocket fours. The big blind also makes a call and let's see if we can hit a set. The flop comes 8, 4, 4. We hit better than a set. We hit quads, baby. There's about $50 in the pot and the cutoff bets $20. We don't want to scare anyone away, so we just make the call, and fortunately, the big blind also makes the call. The turn is the 10 of hearts. This time it checks to us, and we want to start building a pot, so we bet big. We bet $75. I'm especially fine with this size as there is a flush draw on board. The big blind thinks for a while and eventually folds, but the cutoff makes the call. The river comes the 10 of diamonds. There is about $240 in the pot at this point, and when it checks to us, we have to decide what to bet. Our opponent has about 350 behind. If we jam, I don't see our opponent being able to fold a flush here, and they might not even fold an overpair like aces or kings. For this reason, we do go all in for about 350, and our opponent thinks for a while and eventually folds. Unfortunately, we couldn't get max value there, but it's always nice to flop quads. In this hand, we raise king jack of diamonds under the gun to $15. Under the gun 1 calls and the button 3 bets to $65. For this price, we make the call and so does the person to our left. We are going 3 ways to a flop that comes 10 of diamonds, 4 clubs, 3 hearts. Surprisingly, it checks through. The turn comes the 8 of diamonds. If our opponents had a hand here, I would really expect them to bet the flop, so we go ahead and decide to turn our hand into a semi-bluff. With the 2 overs and the flush draw, we bet $100 into about $200. Thankfully, this works as both of our opponents make the fold. When there's no interest in a multi-way pot, sometimes it pays to go for it. In this next hand, we raise ace 3 of diamonds under the gun to $15. The button and the small blind both make the call. The flop comes 9, 7, 6, 2 diamonds. When it checks to us, we could bet here, but we decide to check, and the button also checks. The turn comes the queen of spades. It checks to us again, and we bet $30. This is a semi-bluff, but I don't really know if it's all that necessary. Ace high could be good, and what's our plan really if we don't river a diamond? The button makes a call, and fortunately, we do not have to worry about not hitting a diamond as it is the king of diamonds on the river. We get there with the nuts, and if our opponent has top pair like a queen or a king, he's going to have a very difficult time folding. For this reason, we choose a polarizing size of $140. That's an overbet into about 110. Our opponent makes the call. We get kind of lucky there at the end, drilling our diamond and pick up a nearly $400 pot. One of the last hands of the night happens on a table with some crazy players. We raise under the gun with pocket nines to $15. The cutoff 3-bets us to $35. This sizing is obviously a joke and shouldn't be a thing, but we're just gonna make the call.
I'll just call. Just call.
Only call?
Just call. Did you want me to raise?
We are heads up, and the flop comes queen, 9, deuce. We flop a set.
Check.
We check to our opponent, who bets $75 or pot.
75.
Oh my god.
Like I mentioned, this guy is kind of crazy, so we are just going to let him hang himself, and we are just going to call. The turn is the ace of spades. We check once again, and our opponent is not slowing down, thankfully, and bets 150 this time.
That good? Jesus.
Again, after some posturing and some thinking, we're just going to call and let him continue. The river comes the ace of hearts, as if we didn't need to boat up, but we did. Our opponent has about $300 behind at this point, and we check, and he bets $200. We go all in for about $100 more.
All in.
As you heard, our opponent mentions he has a queen and then folds.
I do not.
Finally, the night comes to an end as the game itself comes to an end. It breaks, and we end up cashing out.
Alright guys, as you saw, the game ended up breaking. We bought in for 500, added on for 300, so in for 800 total. Ended up cashing out for 1823, so that's an over $1,000 profit. Not bad, not bad. Good night of cash game poker here. Usher was also having a concert. A ton of people leaving now. Shout out to Usher.